Hi, New Bedford. Welcome. My name is Susan. I'm your host. And there's something special about the salty air. There's almost something magical that just lures you to the salty shores. And as we go about a busy day, our lives, whether it be errands or just going for a beautiful drive, we sometimes can take for granted what our oceans and beaches can do for us. And it has a lot of benefits, and there's like a whole other magical world that we're not as privy as my guest is. And in his journey of many waves, he decided to capture all these moments behind a lens that took snapshots of many moments, and that he then decided to publish a book called Working Waterfront. And here we have Phil. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. Can you just tell us a little bit about how photography meets the seafood industry?
Well, I've been in the seafood industry most of my adult life, and I've always carried a camera with me. So throughout my journey, I've photographed stuff in boats and whatever, and then towards the end of my journey here, I focused more on the what it takes to bring the product to the final, what's the word I want to say, bring the product to the consumer. So this book profiles that. It explains what happens when a boat comes in from fishing, all the different people that are involved in it. I don't think everyone really realizes what goes into the process.
No, because on the outside, everybody is just going about their business, and they see this beautiful ray of depths of blues and greens, and that's about it. And it's like a seasonal thing. Where you captured like a whole year of moments in different places. So where have you traveled, and when did you have that moment that I need to start taking pictures?
Well, I've always been a photographer. Back in the 70s. I had a friend, Dr. Masloui, who lived down the street from me, and he would let me borrow his cameras every once in a while. And when he passed away, his wife called me up and said, you know, my husband really liked you. I'd like you to have one of his cameras. So I took this Nikon camera, and I've been shooting Nikon ever since the early 70s. Most of the stuff for this book is all in New Bedford, basically New Bedford Harbor. And it profiles what the industry is about and how it's changed throughout the years.
So can you just share some of your adventures that you've encountered? What is it like, what would your day be like when you started early in the morning, and how early is morning, and when do you end, and what happens in between?
Well, back when I was the general manager at Burgee Seafood, my day started, I was at work at 5:30. There's two fish auctions, one in Gloucester and one in New Bedford. They start at 6. So I would see what's on the Gloucester auction, see if I was interested in anything, see if the boats had any good quality fish, and then do the New Bedford auction. So after the auction was over and I did my buying, we would normally have a boat at our plant that didn't go to the auction. So I would grab my camera, run down there, and for around 10-15 minutes take different shots of the process, what's going on.
So what does take place behind the world, the underworld, the ocean world? What is exactly going on? What would be the challenges that a lot of the fishermen had to endure besides weather elements?
Well, government restrictions. There's been throughout the years, a lot of restrictions for them, certain things they can't do, and a lot of times it's policy that's really not written properly, and they fight it. A lot of people believe that these people that make the laws sit behind a desk and they never really go out and experience what's going out there. And those fishermen know what's happening out there. They're out there all the time. They know where the certain fish are and where they're not. And the government sometimes will just run a ship out there once in a while and make surveys, and they come up with their science that way. So it makes it tough. UMass Dartmouth here, this has done a lot of great work to help the fishermen, the scallop industry and the dragger industry.
And how so? How did they contribute their part?
Well, let's say the government's going to close a certain area of the scallops. UMass here will send a boat out, and they'll drop a camera and take photographs of the ocean bottom, and to prove that, or agree with the government, either way, but they'll prove that they actually will show that the count. They've done the same thing with fish. They've mounted cameras on fishing nets, cut the end of the net out so the fish can escape, and they go around in these areas where the government says there's no fish, and they can actually count the fish going into the net. So it has helped out.
So with the ecosystem, was that also being tracked? How does it affect the seafood industry, the growth of our sea fish?
Yeah, I'm not a scientist, but the government closed the scallop area. This goes back quite a ways ago, and they wouldn't let anybody go in there. And then eventually they said, okay, so many years, I forget what it was. But then when the boats went in there, the scallops were stacked so deep in the water, and they were dead.
Ooh.
And they would bring them up, and they would be gray. And the government learned that we can close an area down, but we need to keep it cleansed. So they would let boats go into these closed areas and let them take, 4,000, 5,000 pounds, whatever it is, I don't know exactly, to let them go in, and so they keep these areas cleansed so the product can grow. And it's been very successful. The scallop industry, the government, and the fishermen have worked close together, and it's been fairly decent. Fish are a little different, from my understanding. There's no street signs out there. The fish don't know where they're supposed to. They don't hang out at a certain place. They go where the food is. And it's my understanding that the water temperature and the salinity of the water is changing, and the feed that the fish chase are moving further offshore. And so when they say the Gulf of Maine doesn't have any codfish in it, there's no fence there that keep them in there. They'll move back and forth. So other areas in the world are having good cod, and we're not. Cod catches, I mean. So it's a whole big picture of environmental.
So what kept you focused with photography and having this desire to constantly capture these moments?
Well, I was always intrigued going to the New Bedford Whaling Museum and seeing the old black and white photos of the sail makers, the barrel makers, the guys that worked in the shipyards. And I said, we have the same thing here in the fishing industry. There's all these different jobs and people. So in 2008, I decided to do a personal project, and I went around with a film camera, medium format camera, and photographed all the people at work, from the lumpers to the fish cutters to the ladies that do the book settlements for the boats, the ice houses, everything, the scallop bags that are produced here in New Bedford that people don't think about. And the Whaling Museum caught wind of it, and in 2009 I had an exhibit there for, I think it was around 9 months.
Nice.
They had my photographs on exhibit, and it was kind of neat.
But you also had another exhibit, wasn't it, in Washington?
Yes, so through the New Bedford Fishing Heritage Center, they got a grant from the Library of Congress to do an Archie Green project. So Archie Green was a folklorist who traveled the country, and he would interview people at their jobs and take a photograph of them, and he'd give it to the Library of Congress. And I believe he passed away in the 90s, and they felt this was so important that they put money aside each year for it. So I was lucky enough to be the photographer for that. We did an exhibit here in New Bedford at the Heritage Center of all the photos. The Library of Congress saw the online exhibit, and they asked for the pictures to be sent to Washington. So we shipped them all out, and for a year, actually it was 2 years because of COVID, it was an exhibit at the Jefferson Building right behind the State House in Washington, D.C.
Did you get any, do you feel that you got, you brought awareness to us, our industry here in New Bedford, while it was in Washington? Did you get any feedback?
Yeah, they were really excited to see it. They all like seafood and really don't know the whole procedure. Not a lot of people do.
I don't think not everyone as blessed as we are to be surrounded by
Yes.
water.
Yes.
So that obviously would make a big difference. But so where else did you go besides New Bedford? Did you in Gloucester? Did you go like to Cuttyhunk as well? Did you go to other islands? And
Oh, for this book, no. But I did do a project at Cuttyhunk, which will probably be my next book.
okay.
Cuttyhunk's a small island off the coast here. It's the westernmost island on the Elizabeth Island chain. And it's a very popular summer location. A lot of boats go into the harbor. There's no restaurants, there's no Dunkin' Donuts, there's
Oh
nothing
my
there.
gosh.
And so they have a little place that you can buy a pizza, and it's a neat little place, beautiful town. But in the summertime, there's only like 10 people that live there. I mean, excuse me, in the wintertime, there's only 10 people that live there. And so I thought that'd be kind of an interesting story to tell. So once a month, all winter long, I started in October, and I went there once a month and documented life there. So I got to go to selectmen's meetings. I got to go into a lot of places that are closed for the season. They have a couple little hotels there, the inns I should call them. Nothing's locked up because nobody lives there. I'm literally walking into these places. But get to meet some very interesting people. There's a retired cardiologist from Mass General who lives there with his wife full time.
Wow.
A gentleman, Dale Lynch, who lives there full time. Wayne Pereira, who runs the generator because they have to generate their electricity. And so it was quite an experience. And I followed it through. They have a one-room schoolhouse. And I followed it through to the young lady who graduated in June. So I started in October, went through the winter, and ended in June.
So tell me a little bit about the process of choosing your camera. Is there a particular brand and why and what does what? Can you just give us a little bit?
Very embarrassing question. So I have way too much camera gear. My first trip to Cuttyhunk, I took my mountain bike, and I have all my camera gear in the back, and I take way too much gear with me. I took a Hasselblad 501 medium format camera with a digital back on it. I took one of my Nikon cameras with a couple different lenses, and it was weighing me down. By the time the project got over, I only took one camera over and got it all figured out. But primarily, it's similar to an artist. If you're doing charcoal, you use a certain tool, and if you're doing oils, you use a certain brush, or a watercolor, a certain brush. Same thing for me. When I did that project in 2008, I wanted film because I wanted to emulate the pictures from the past. And yes, I can sit in Photoshop and make everything black and white and do all this, but I enjoy being behind the camera. I don't enjoy sitting down doing editing. So if I want black and white, I'll shoot black and white and shoot the film and just scan it and put it into the computer.
What camera brand do you prefer?
Well, it depends what I'm doing for my portrait work that I do. I use a Fuji medium format digital camera. For my sports stuff, my grandson is playing Pop Warner football now. Yeah, I'll bring a couple Nikons with me to shoot. They're designed for speed shooting. And just to walk around, I have a little Sony camera that I use, a very, very neat little camera.
And I'm sure you've seen a difference in the whole technology and processing
Yes.
of photos as well.
Yes.
Can you share that with us?
Well, the shooting is so much easier. Now the mirrorless cameras have eye autofocus, so I just pick the camera up, point it to you, and it's locked into your eye for perfect focusing, where you didn't have that years ago.
So what was that
When
like?
I first started, you didn't have autofocus back then. So that makes it a lot easier when you're doing portrait work. But in the dark room, I try not to do a lot in Photoshop. I try to get it all right in camera, so I don't have to fool around too much. Sometimes your white balance has to be corrected or whatever, but other than that, I try to do everything in camera, so I spend less time in the computer.
Do you like to video as well?
I
No.
don't do any video. Once in a while on my phone, but I don't do video at all. And I don't do weddings.
I don't do weddings. You don't do weddings.
No, I do some for family members, but I That's not my cup of tea.
So as you're going around and you are capturing these moments behind the lens, obviously the people are noticing that you're doing this. So how do you think that had an impact on them, having the light on them, whereas opposed to someone that just comes to work and does the same routine over and over? So for me, hearing and listening to you, I would think you're bringing some understanding to someone's position and what they do, that it's not just a position. Everyone's part is very important. So did they give you any feedback in how they felt when you were?
Well, when I go into, like, when I'm at Burgie's, if I take pictures of the different people at their jobs, I always give them a print or send a text, and they like that because they can send it back to their family, showing what's going on. So they enjoy it. No one's ever said, "Don't take my picture," you know. But you know,
I can't see anyone doing that, but I'm sure they must be happy.
Yes.
That they're being noticed in some shape or form, because what they do is very important for our community as well. Boats, have you been on different boats, and what was that like?
I've only been out on one trip. In 2009 I went out for 8 days on a science trip, a scalloper. So I brought my camera gear with me. We went out with a scientist, and they towed a camera, and we towed some dredges to see what the ocean bottom was like, and it was quite an experience to see how they live. But it was in August. It was calm weather. The boat I was on, the Cathy Marie, is a 110-foot boat, fully air conditioned, had a big screen TV set.
Oh, look at you!
Satellite TV. It was like, it was like being on a cruise. It was kind of nice. Not what they normally go through.
So throughout this process, did you have any support from friends, family, local people to?
Just not really. I mean, no. I mean, just something I just do.
Mm-hmm. But once they caught on, did they want more of it?
I don't know if they actually want more of it. They just just know that I'm there, and they say, "Oh, it's Phil taking pictures."
What was the best part of this journey?
Meeting the people. It's a big family. I know fishermen from Point Judith, New Bedford, down on the Cape, and they're just really nice people, hard-working people. And I'm retired now, and I miss the people. I really do. I don't miss the stress of having to deal with a product that doesn't get any better as the age goes on with it. It's not like wine. And so in the seafood industry, it's very stressful that when you take the product in, you got to hurry up and move it and make a profit on it. And that part I don't miss, but I do really miss the people.
So describe to us, what would a sunset or a sunrise look like over the ocean?
Oh my God, the sunrise at the plant was crazy beautiful some days. The reds and oranges in the sky, it was just so beautiful. I would post a picture on Facebook. I would say good morning from New Bedford's working waterfront, and I would post a picture. Some of them were just unbelievable, to see that. And it's so blessed. I have customers that will come in from like Ohio or Pennsylvania, and they stand at the dock and they go, "Oh my God, the boats come right up to the building. Look at this," and we take it for granted. We just out there going, "Oh, Butler's Flat,
we do.
The lighthouse,
We do
everything
take
else."
it for granted.
Yeah, we do.
So tell us about the process of this book. So when did you have this beautiful aha moment? I need to publish a book. And what were the steps? What was that like?
Well,
tell us about your emotions.
Back in
how vacillating they were.
Back in 2008, when I started that project, I said, this would be nice to put into a book. And of course, I dragged my feet all these years. And but as I worked towards retirement, I just saw the necessity to document whatever I could, because some of the people that I've documented have already passed away. some of the older guys in the city here that been in the fishing industry for their whole life, and so I wanted to try to document as much as possible before I retire. And of course, once I retired, I had the time to sit down and do the publication.
So when you decided at that point, who did you go through? Who's your publisher? Did you self-publish?
I have a very good friend, Mark Starr from Stonington, Connecticut. He's done a bunch of books. We've been friends for years, and he's self-published. And he would tell me that he would have to spend X amount of dollars, get so many books, and then have to go around and send them out. And I even had a conversation with you once about it.
Yes.
And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to go this easier route, so I did this through Amazon, which is, I think it's called Kindle Book Publishing. And you upload your story to them. They check it out to make sure it's not something really weird. And then they'll publish it for you, and they ship it, they advertise it, ship it, and they take a cut of the action, of course. And I didn't have to invest any money other than my time.
So if anybody wants a copy, they would just go right on to Amazon, order it, and they would then put the book together?
Yep. Amazon will ship it to you like in 5 days. You can also go to the New Bedford Fishing Heritage Center. They have signed copies there, and the Euro store in Fairhaven has some now also.
And where else do you plan on adventuring with your books to have them?
I need to go to a few more places to like Ship Supply and a few of the settlement houses, because I know the fishermen will come in and see that and want to get some. Any
book signings?
Yes, I did one at the Heritage Center a month ago or so. Yeah.
Are you planning on doing any more?
Not right now. But I should, I guess.
So have you been given any thought what your second book is going to be like?
Well, there's two projects I'm working on. Of course, the Cutty Hunk book, which I haven't had a chance to go back to Cutty Hunk because COVID came along. They really didn't want anybody over there. And actually, in that wintertime, people that summited there actually brought their families there and stayed throughout the winter. So the kids used the schoolhouse, and because they wanted to be isolated, not to be around anyone with the coronavirus. So I haven't had a chance. I've had some communications with the people, but I need to go back, get their permission. I need to get some formal portraits of them. So Cutty Hunk is one book that I'll be working on. Cutty Hunk, I call it a slice of paradise. And I'm also going to be making a trip on drag around New Bedford, the Mary Kay.
Oh, wow.
I'd like to do it in the wintertime to document what these guys go through, because in the wintertime the weather's horrendous. The boats ice up on the way in. It's very, very dangerous job. So everyone out there, invest in Dramamine, because I'll be buying some. So I won't get seasick. But.
So what would you say to someone who has a passion, but they're insecure, they're not sure? What would you give them for an inspiration?
Go with what you like to do. Don't drag your feet. Time and tide waits for no man. And get on it and get it done. It took me a while to do this, and I'm kind of glad I finally got it done. But it's given me motivation to get the other stuff going.
I still say it's always the first one that you're teeter-tottering with your emotions. They're vacillating, because it's like, I know I can do this, but I'm like, really, can you? And once you get over that hump, like for me, it was the illustration part that took me 3 years, because I decided to do it with colored pencil, and then somebody decided to create adult coloring books using the colored pencils. So there was a shortage there for a while. But either way, it was done. And then the writing, and then it was like, okay, what are you going to do now? And I'm like, that hesitation was there. But once I got over that, I just felt the sigh of relief. Okay, it's out of my hands. I did my part. All I had to do was submit it, hit the button, it went, forgot about it, and then voila, my book got published. But yeah, so it is exciting. I do believe that, I think it comes to us as whispers as we go through our lives, and our lives are up and down, you know, so much just like a wave, you know. Our life is a journey of many waves, and if you could just take that moment just to sit down and just listen to those whispers, something just magically beautiful just comes out, and it's precious. And I think this is wonderful.
Thank you.
So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. So thank you, New Bedford, for tuning in. I'm sure we'll see each other again. Thank you.